Well, well, well. After weeks of anticipation, it is official. Bradley Beal is a member of the LA Clippers. The buyout announced on Wednesday morning. He will be joining the Clippers for 2 years, $11 million. What does this mean for your LA Clippers? Going to be talking about it all on today's Locked On Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You are locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, born and raised in LA, been a Clipper fan for 20 years, been covering the team for 5 on my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, and 3 right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and hit the notification bell so you know every single time we post a video. And of course, listen wherever you get your podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by absolutely nothing, and it's something to talk about. The Clippers have gotten Bradley Beal. He has reached a buyout with the Phoenix Suns that will be stretching his contract over the next 5 years at $19 million per year. He was still owed $110 million, so he's giving up that $13.8 million or whatever it is to come to the Clippers because, he's gotten paid enough. So he is going to be coming to the Clippers, going to be reacting to the move, and then the pros of it, then the cons of it, and then what the starting lineup and rotation possibilities could look like. But man, oh man, ladies and gentlemen, I am back from Las Vegas, one of the times of my life. I feel like I told you guys all the major conversations I had with Clipper people. I didn't mention it, but I also got the chance to meet Kobe Sanders and Kobe Brown on the last night, late at night at the Aria. So that was pretty cool. So to say I went into this trip having not actually formally met any of our players, even though I talk about them and I'm like, what's the word? What's the right way to put it? I have one of the biggest platforms of any fan, if not the biggest of any fan, right? Does anybody else have a bigger platform across all platforms? I don't know. But you guys can put in the comments who you think. In terms of fans, I know we have like Adam, radio, and, guys like that, beat writers that get more views and stuff probably. But fan, I don't know. All I know is it's crazy. I hadn't known anyone. That sounds so arrogant when I say it. But I was trying to make it as factual as possible. But anyway, point being, I didn't know anyone, and then I met Jason Powell. Kind of like I already knew Dante Jones a little bit, but I reminded him who I was, and so now I feel like he'd always recognize me if he saw me. Chris Dunn now knows me, Derek Jones, Brooke Lopez, and of course Kobe Brown and Kobe Sanders. So pretty awesome. But we got to talk about. So, by the way, Summer League, very much recommend it. But, I was told all throughout Summer League that this was going to happen, and the news comes out that we're signing Bradley Beal. First off, the money, $5 million per year. We'll absolutely take that. $5.5 million for Bradley Beal, who was just making 50. Bargain. For people that think Bradley Beal's like bad at basketball now, you, one, weren't watching Suns games, and two, have extremely high standards, because anybody that's averaging 17, 3, and 4 on 50, 39, 80 splits, right? And last season, if you want to go a little bit more in depth about the shooting, a guy who shot from 56.5%, which was a career high for him in 2-point range, shot 76% at the rim from 0 to 3 feet, 54% from 3 to 10 feet, and 50.5 from 10 to 16. So his only areas that were under 50% were threes, where he was 39, which is still really good, and then 16 feet to the three ball, inside the three ball, he was at 42%, but he only takes that shot 12% of the time on average as of last year. So all those shooting splits, he's still a very good player. And I don't need to name stats to tell you what Bradley Beal is good at. This is a guy. Again, another guy, I've never missed a playoff game of his career. I've watched every playoff game of his career from game 1 against the Chicago Bulls in 2014. And let me just tell you, I'll never forget in my Facebook post, back then I was on Facebook like that, I remember saying the NBA playoffs are so great. After game 2 of that series against Chicago, where the Wizards upset the Bulls 4-1, I said about Bradley Beal, the NBA playoffs are so great because for those of us that don't have League Pass, we can watch every nationally televised game and realize how good guys like Bradley Beal are. So I actually, for those that don't know, and maybe some of you know because you remember how like told everybody I love John Wall. I was my favorite Eastern Conference team outside of whatever team LeBron was on, because I really did like LeBron a lot at the time. He was my favorite player for a while, which for those that listen to Dime Dropper are like, what? Yeah, I know. Long story. We can talk about that another time, but I really liked the Wizards back in the day. And so I was seeing their journey, and then personally, I think the Bradley Beal before John Wall versus after is very different. So I want to talk about that real quick. By the way, so just to make a very clear statement, good move for the Clippers. Now, what's going to happen next and how we use everybody, that is where it gets complicated, and I'll talk about next. But in terms of you're putting a name, we had 9 rotation guys at this before this move, right? We have, let's say, the starting lineup from last playoffs, which was James, Chris Dunn, Kawhi Leonard, Zoo, and why am I blanking? Norman Powell. Okay. Right? So we have those 5 guys. Oh, no, Norman Powell's not on the team anymore, so I'd take him off. So let's replace him with John Collins, right? Slide everybody down. So those are our 5 guys. Then off the bench, we've got Bogey, which makes 6, Derrick Jones Jr., which makes 7, Nico, 8, and then Brook Lopez, 9. We don't think Amir Coffey and Ben Simmons are coming back, and we know the young guys are probably going to get into the rotation. So we need another backup guard. Bradley Beal comes in. If that's your 10-man rotation, just like those guys, and then order and lineups TBD, my bad, I shouldn't say order, rotation and amount of minutes TBD, that's a really solid 10-man squad. Yes, we're old. Yes, we're a little slow, but you've got another big 4 essentially. And yes, people are going to say let me get to the Bradley Beal part next, because there's going to be skeptics about Bradley Beal, of course, not probably from our fan base, but around the league. Now, it seems like all the national media people are agreeing that, Bradley Beal slides right in for Norman Powell. He is getting $5.5 million a year. His production actually wasn't that bad. It was the price that or the amount of money he was getting paid that made it look so bad. So this is a home run for the Clippers. That's what a lot of media guys I've seen say on socials today. And I saw Shams Charania, Malika Andrews, they were speaking highly of it on ESPN. But let me just talk about the other side, which is that people are going to say, well, the Suns were a colossal disappointment the last couple of years. Bradley Beal had some part in that. Let's talk about that for a sec. So when John Wall started going through injury issues, the Wizards were terrible, right? And so Bradley Beal essentially got a chance to just go off, to just be the number one option. Because before John Wall was the face of the team, he was the number one option. He was the guy that had the ball in his hands the most. In 2017, which was, I think, when the Wizards should have made it to the conference finals, they lost that 7-game series to the Celtics, who were the 1 seed, but still, Isaiah Thomas led them. They didn't really have that same continuity that the Wizards had. Be a great series to rewatch, by the way. But John Wall and Bradley Beal were actually tied for the scoring leader on that team. So again, like John Wall was 7th in MVP voting and was averaging 11 assists along with those 23 points. So when John Wall got hurt in 2018, he only played half the season. Bradley Beal played all 82 games and averaged 23 points a game and was an all-star. And the Wizards made the playoffs and lost in 6 to the Raptors. But in the next season, it all started to change because that's when Wall was really hurt. Again, 32 games. Beal played all 82. He averaged 26, 5, and 5.5 assists and was the real man, but their team was garbage, right? And my friend Will Johnson always says that Dana Altman told him when he played for him, the bad teams still have a leading scorer. So that doesn't mean much. We know Bradley Beal was a good scorer. I mean, if you don't know Bradley Beal's game, if you're unfamiliar with his game, this is a guy that can score from all 3 levels. Fantastic pure shooter. Has a step back that's lethal going to his left, but I would say he can step back going both ways. In pick and roll, he's pretty solid, much better than Norm. He's not exceptional like a James Harden, obviously, but like I'd say he's maybe Kawhi level. And, don't be surprised if you see Bradley Beal drive hard to his left and then throw that pass with his right hand, that across the court to that right corner. I vividly can just see him and remember him doing that so much. And, this is a guy that really kind of has a bag. He can really score one-on-one. So that's just, and more so than Norman Powell. Will he be as quick in terms of moving without the ball? Probably not. But can he move without the ball? Can he come off screens and score and work quickly off the catch? Absolutely. I think the funny part about Phoenix is they actually had that in abundance and didn't have enough of what we had, which is like a floor general like a James Harden or a guy that posts up enough like Kawhi. You can argue Kevin Durant, but I think Kawhi is more post up heavy than Kevin, which is one of the reasons I kind of like his game a little bit more. But Beal is a better player than Norm to me. No doubt about it. We're talking about a guy, and look, I did say, all good teams or all bad teams still have a leading scorer. I don't know if Norman Powell on any team in the NBA would have the keys to average 30 points a game, which is what Beal did for a terrible Wizards team in the 2020 season, but he averaged 30 points a game. That's not like something to just scoff at. He had the ability in the NBA to do that, and the crazy part is he didn't shoot that badly. 45.5% from the field, 35 from 3, and 84 from the line, while being the number one option. So I think that's something to talk about. And then 2021, I've talked about this season. He averaged 31 points a game with Westbrook, but I thought it was the least effective 30 I've ever seen in my life for any player that's averaged that. But like, what is that supposed to mean? Every single person I've seen average 30 was like one of the best scorers of all time. So yeah, I don't consider Bradley Beal one of the best scorers of all time. But if you average 30 points a game in the NBA on a playoff team, which he did, that's really good. Now, here's the thing. He's kind of fallen off a cliff since then, and his defense has not been the same since when he was with John Wall. He was not really playing defense a lot of that 2021 season, and I'd consider him mediocre at best defensively in that season, at best, and mostly when Westbrook was starting to play well. 2022 was the season that really turned me off with Beal, where I kind of lost respect for him because they traded Westbrook and they still had a pretty decent team, but his scoring dropped a lot, from 30 to 23, and I get that they had like Kuzma, Spencer Dinwiddie for a bit, Porzingis coming in. But Porzingis played 17 games. Spencer Dinwiddie, and that was later in the season. Dinwiddie played 44 games. And I know they didn't get along and stuff like that. But overall, like, you still had the keys to the car. And he only averaged 23 points a game, and his efficiency fell off a cliff. He shot 30% from 3, 45% from the field. It was reported that there was like beef. And it was like after he got that contract, I think that was the biggest problem is this Wizards gave him that crazy contract that he was just way not like $50 million a year. Like, I think Beal's good, but that was excessive. So that season he looked like, and I can speak from watching that game against us, where we came back from a big deficit, where I thought Bradley Beal just looked disinterested, and he's the face of the franchise. Like, that just wasn't acceptable in my opinion. And I heard my Wizards fan friends blasting him. So I know that wasn't just a me seeing that thing. And then, of course, the last season, I mean, at this point, he played 50 games. He averaged 23 points, but they weren't very good. He's solid. Beal's still good, but he's an all-star. He's an all-star level player. And then, of course, the Suns, where he's been injured. He missed 29 games both of the last 2 years. I don't think I think he's fallen down. He's shown some unprofessional moments that I'll talk about coming up. But overall, he's just not an all-star level player anymore. He's like right. I'd say you can maybe still consider him all-star caliber. All-star caliber, maybe right under that. So that's pretty damn good. And on the price, $5.5 million, we'll take that all day. Coming up, though, going to be talking about my concerns with the Beal move, including what it does to our defense. I got to tell you a little something about Monarch Money. I was walking around my friend the other day, and he literally said, because I was talking about things that I'm paying for that I didn't even know about, he said, do you have Monarch Money? It does the job for you. And what Monarch Money does is it manages your money easier. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase or just purchasing a lot of different, TV subscriptions these days, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. Driver's seat? Those that know. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. All right, Clippers signing Bradley Beal, and boy, I was going way too long with that first segment. I mean, geez, it's just like it feels like there is so much to say, and I have so much to say about Beal because again, I'm not just a guy that watches the Clippers. Like I've watched Bradley Beal very closely throughout his career. I'd say, of course, the years that I watched him the least were post John Wall, the years I was just talking about. So this is one of my concerns with Beal before we get to the basketball side. His random when he became like a 30-point scorer, I feel like like the defensive side of his game really fell off. And that's natural because you're the number one option. But it was kind of more the effort level that and his body language that kind of was questionable for me. Just looked like he wasn't trying nearly as hard as the Bradley Beal that I'd come to know. Not he just felt like he after he got it happens, it's just clear. I think it's just psychology. Like you get that bag, you get a little more comfortable. He knew the team wasn't that good. Like he's going out there getting buckets, but like he's not gonna kill himself. And he was getting hurt too, as well. That matters. But when I saw him go to the Suns, I was like, okay, they are redundant. He's gonna have to sacrifice and be a third option. But if he does, this team can have a great offense. Defensively, they're gonna struggle because I was thinking maybe he can return to being a good defender. And to be honest, the first year he kind of did. He was one of their main point of attack guys defensively, but I wouldn't consider him a good defender anymore. And I don't remember if the league or the media considered him a good defender in the Washington days. I just remember that I considered him a good defender in the Washington days. So my word isn't law, you know what I'm saying? Especially high school me. But if you were a Wizards fan or you watched Beal closely in those days, let me know what you thought of his defense because I thought he was a pretty good defender in those Wizards days. But I'd say when I watched him in the Sun series against Minnesota, where he, Grayson Allen, and Royce O'Neal kind of split their time on Ant-Man, he was decent. I could tell he was trying a little bit harder than the last couple of years in Washington because obviously he's on a team where he can, and he kind of has to because KD and Booker are just better scorers than him. But if he's one of your main point of attack defenders, that's a concern. So I don't think Beal was too bad when he was healthy in the 2024 season for the Suns. And remember, the Suns were the 6th seed that season. It wasn't like they were a joke like last year. But I think them not having a center was a big deal. Them not having a point of attack defender better than Royce O'Neal was a big deal. And the big three missing games. Because at the time, you're going into it thinking Beal's like still an all-star guy. He's just coming off a season where he averaged 23 points a game on, let me check the splits, on 51, 36 and a half, 84 splits. Again, yes, his team was 35 and 47. That's not horrific, by the way. That was when they were kind of in that middle ground. They're not choosing a direction to tank. So Beal was decent. The defensive rating was 21st. Offensive rating was 22nd. I think Beal at that point was just a good bucket getter, star-level player. And then, of course, as I mentioned, you go to the 2024 season. He averages with the Suns. And remember, he misses 29 games, and the big three missed. Like, they did not play with each other much, but when they played with each other, they were good. So Beal, first season averaging under 20 points in a long time, averaged just 18 for the Suns that first season with them. But he shot 51, 43, 81 splits. So those are really good splits. And in the playoffs, it dropped a little bit. 16 and a half points, 3 rebounds, 4.5 assists on 44, 43, 80 splits. The only thing I'll say about that 2024 series against the Wolves is having him as one of your main point of attack guys is not going to be a serious team. And he quit in game 4. Like, straight up quit. Like, he just fouled out. It was kind of a joke what he was doing. He fouled out. He looked like he didn't even care. He wasn't disciplined. When your season is on the line and you're just fouling like that, he got frustrated. It was very clear. He got frustrated, and that was just not right. And then this past season, yes, he was involved in some trade rumors because the Suns were like, we got to trade this contract, and it's just we don't need Beal. We need something different. Teams didn't want that contract. So that's why it led to them buying him out and doing this, stretch provision. They didn't want him. And his basketball character, again, just like the when he was kind of dogging it in the season, he was giving weird quotes in postgame. He just didn't look and he kept saying things in the postgame after losses and just not doing anything different. So I was just like, He seems so comfortable and satisfied. Like he doesn't really care about winning so much. So that's where I was a little bit questioning him. So this is where my concerns are with the Clippers. A little bit of that. And by the way, people are going to say, people like you said that about James Harden. I said that about James Harden in the playoffs, that he sometimes showed low effort in the playoffs, and not with Houston, more so the last couple of years. I never said that from in a regular season basis that James Harden didn't seem like he was serious about winning. First of all, James Harden and Bradley Beal, like there's levels to this stuff. James Harden is a different stratosphere of player all time than Beal. You know what I'm saying? Just totally different. When I referenced, the 30 plus point a game guys that, those are the best scores of all time, James Harden is one of those guys. So totally different level of expectation. Harden stuff is in the playoffs that people have criticism of him. In the regular season, dude, he's consistent. He's available. Beal, he's being questioned in the regular season about, like, does he even help teams win? I don't think anybody would say that James Harden does not help your team win in the regular season. But what happens is in the playoffs, it's a different conversation in terms of big games, elimination games, and just the way your team has to be built around Harden. Different conversation. But no good, you don't have no good team has ever been built around Bradley Beal, ever. I don't think he's ever been the best player on a playoff team. Although you can argue 2018 he was. So maybe just 2018. He was not better than Russ that season. Hell no. I watched the games. He was not. James Harden has been the best player on a team that was one game away from going to the finals and probably would have won it. So there's different levels to this. And even now there's different levels to it. But I don't think James Harden, for the most part, backs up what he says. Bradley Beal, I was a little skeptical of that. But here's the thing. The Clippers have shown that they can get guys to buy in. Ty Lue's shown he's a player's coach. It seems that people love being a Clipper these days. Yes, we did Westbrook a little dirty. That wasn't a Ty thing. That was a fully a Lawrence Frank thing. Ty has done a great job getting guys to buy in. He has Harden re-signing. Kawhi's re-signed multiple times. Reggie Jackson and Nico Batum had their careers revived. It didn't work out for John Wall because John Wall isn't it crazy we've had John Wall, Beal, and Gortat now? That's crazy. But with John Wall, he just wasn't that, he thought he was a lot better than he was. I don't know if Bradley Beal thinks he's that much better than he is, but here's the thing that concerns me. From all the reports, he's coming in with the expectation of starting. And we've essentially made him that guarantee to start the season. And that leaves us with a lineup of Collins, Harden, Kawhi, Beal, and Zoo. Who's out there that's going to guard the best player to start games? Because we know Kawhi's not going to do it. And if he does, people might say, well, we have Beal and Harden now. He can. I want Kawhi to be the number one guy offensively, and I think that's the approach we're going to take, especially because we don't want to put more of a burden on Kawhi. That was why we got John Collins. So that's kind of out. So you're essentially going to be asking Beal to guard the best player on the opposing team for the first couple minutes. Now, coming up, going to be talking about if we can get away with that, and what are the alternatives and possibilities that can happen if we do that. All right. If you think this is going to be the last episode on Bradley Beal and the move and what this leads to, you're tripping because I feel like I need an hour to talk about this. By the way, I did go live after the move on Dime Dropper to talk about it as well, so I guess you can say there's multiple levels of content there. But we're going to be bringing it on Locked On Clippers all week long. Listen, I think one of the biggest reasons we were a top 3 defense and we won 50 games, and I mentioned it incessantly over the course of the last season, was our point of attack defense and what bringing in Chris Dunn and Derrick Jones Jr. means and meant. And I don't know when the term point of attack became so popularized, but if it was 10 years ago, I'd say perimeter defender. It's just that now, because back 10 years ago, you would have the point guard guard the point guard, the shooting guard guard the shooting guard, and the small forward guard, like that, positional. Now it's positionless, so it's just Lou Dort is mostly guarding point guards. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it is. And you're defending so many pick and rolls. So Chris Dunn and Derrick Jones Jr. are those guys, and they were incredible. And last year they started a lot of games together, and then when Kawhi came back, we were starting one of them. But we had at least one guy in the starting lineup to do the job of guarding the opposing team's best player. Yes, we have John Collins, who's a bigger secondary rim protector, and that's a 4 next to Zoo now. Yes, we have a full season of Kawhi Leonard. So that might mitigate some of the concerns. And we do have Jeff Van Gundy, who I think will get the best out of Collins and Beal defensively. But you're not going to make John Collins and Bradley Beal like a great one-on-one defender against guards and screen navigation, like getting over screens. Like he's not a miracle worker. You know what I'm saying? He's not gonna he's not gonna have the ability to transform you as a person, as a human. We can get the most out of them, I think, but that's not an elite perimeter defense, point of attack defense. That's you're hoping that you can score enough points that it's not a big deal in the beginning of games, in my opinion, because now you have three guys. Let's say we're playing against the Thunder. I'm just throwing it out there because it was the first team that came to mind. SGA sees Bradley Beal. He sees food. He's gonna say, "All right, let's go, Chet. Let's run some pick and rolls, or let me just ISO this fool." And he also can choose Harden and Collins to get in that pick and roll. So I don't love that, truthfully. I don't like it at all. I don't want to take away what this identity of this team is, which is defensively. So if we had Bradley Beal coming in saying, I'm going to be the sixth man and I'm okay being the sixth man, I would be doing cartwheels right now because that's amazing. That he would be a sixth man of the year candidate. You know, you could argue he might be the best sixth man in basketball. He's going to still close games more often than not. You better believe it. But I don't know. He didn't have great body language, partially because he was getting traded, though. Or he was in trade rumors and he knew it. But he didn't have great body language when he got put on the bench, and he kept saying, I'm a starter in this league. I know I'm not a bench player. So he clearly has that ego because he's been a star. And I don't want the same thing to happen what happened to Westbrook, where we promised him a starting spot, he gets pulled, and then he's a malcontent. Because Russ wasn't happy, and he got emotional and started playing badly. That's just a fact. In the Dallas series, he was playing emotionally and badly. And it's partially because of he was a starter. He got yanked. Beal, I just don't like that we're making guarantees to him. Because if he came off the bench, it would be so great. Now, there's going to be people that say, well, Darian, it's not like Derek Jones Jr. and Chris Dunn are off the team. They're not off the team. But so what's the plan? Like, we're going to probably play Beal the first couple of minutes, probably pull him at like the 6-minute mark or something like that. Yeah, probably like the 6-minute mark. And then when Harden takes a rest, because like last season, Harden played the entire first quarter and third quarter. I would prefer him not to do that anymore. Let's play the first 10 minutes. And then we get Beal running that second unit and getting his minutes in that second unit. And you know Kawhi came out earlier than Harden most likely, so then you have Beal and Kawhi playing with each other. Sounds really good. The only thing is we still have Bogey on this team. And with Beal, you're just going to get less Chris Dunn and Derek Jones, which is, and Collins. I'm saying with Collins and Beal, you're going to get less of Derek Jones and Dunn, which is fine if you're looking at it from an offensive perspective, and we did need more offense, but you're sacrificing a lot of defense. And you're potentially playing these guys a lot less. And then here's what I don't like as well. If they're both coming off the bench, that means they're playing together more. And I don't love the lack of shooting with them together on the floor. Although Brook Lopez being our backup big mitigates some of those concerns. But, by the way, Brook Lopez was dope. I'm going to do an episode on him as well. I got to meet him and finally tell him, like, I used to think he was one of the most underrated players. His response was hilarious. But, yes, we have Brook Lopez. And, like, ideally you're playing with Bogey, you know, Derek and Chris, but I'd rather them be staggered in different units, personally. I think that's what makes the most sense. But Beal coming in and starting puts that, you know, it makes it a question mark. So it's all going to come down to Ty Lue at the end of the day and the coaching staff. And by the way, just like being around them, we have a really solid coaching staff in terms of like names, like Jair Larinaga, Dante Jones played in the NBA and was a starter on a conference finals team. Brian Shaw is a champion multiple times with the Lakers, you know? Larry Drew, like he's had a long history in the NBA. So, I mean, we got a star-studded crew, to be honest with you. And it's on them to really put it together and figure out how to use Beal. And I just don't love the guarantees that are being made. Now, some people were bringing up, what about John Collins coming off the bench? He's our third highest paid player, making $26 million, and we brought in a power forward to make life easier for Kawhi. So I don't know if he's going to be benched. Now, here's the thing. There are games that Kawhi is not going to play where you just slot Derek Jones Jr. right in there, or Chris Dunn right in there. There's going to be plenty of those games, especially with Beal as well. You're going to slot one of them right in. But in the playoffs, I don't know about – I said this before and I'll say it again. No serious team in the NBA – Max Strus is the lowest bar, and he's definitely better defensively than Beal, And they have Mobley behind him with Jared Allen. It's not like John Collins is good, but he's no Evan Mobley or Jared Allen. No serious team doesn't have a point of attack defender that's great or very good in their starting lineup. With Beal, we're getting maybe slightly above average. No matter what kind of help defense you have behind you in Zoo and John Collins. If we're talking championship, no. I don't think that can do it. If we're talking be very good, oh yeah, we can be very good. We'll have enough offense that it won't matter. And we'll still have those guys come off the bench. I'm talking about championship. A lot of times I should probably specify that because then it sounds like I'm being much harsher on the team than I am. It's super hard to win titles. Like, I think I speak from that lens a little too much, maybe. Or like, I just don't say it enough. But it's really hard to win titles. Really hard. So for me, yeah, to be a serious title contender, you need a guy that's elite starting defensively. Now, of course, the thing with us is Derek and Chris offensively just may not be good enough. I think Derek is better than Chris offensively, but you saw in the finals against the Celtics, he was broke. But he had a good enough three-point shooting season last year where you can say he's worth the shot. And he does a lot of other good things. Like, he attacks closeouts. He's stupid athletic. Can have putback dunks. He's actually a good cutter. So, like, he has good, the traits offensively that besides that he's not, like, there are other things to him than just not being a very good shooter. He's not a horrible shooter, I don't think, especially inside the arc. He had some moments of, like, making random off-the-dribble mid-ranges last year where I was like, what? And then in transition, he's a demon. So it's just my dream would be if Beal was a sixth man. That would be my dream because I don't think we should bench Collins. The whole point of bringing Collins in was to make it life easier on Kawhi. So I'm a little concerned with that. We have Harden, Beal, backcourt, and Collins. Like, there's three guys you can attack. Now, Collins is not a bad defender, but I just don't think he's going to be able to guard the guards. And I think we're going to switch 1 through 4 to start games. So I just hope we're not digging ourselves holes in the beginning of games with the lack of defense that we have in our starting lineup. That's my only concern. And if Beal pouts, if he gets benched. Because Ty Lue, he's a trial and error coach. He'll try something, and then... So that's going to be the challenge. But, hey, man, hopefully we can get it right. We'll let the coaches that are much more qualified than me do their thing. But if you're just talking about adding Beal to this team, to a 10-man rotation, home run, dude. Home run. And it's insane to see how many people want to be Clippers. Like, yes, the John Walls and the Rondos and the Boogies. Actually, you know what? Boogie and Rondo, though, were on that 21 team. Like, I don't think they played no role. I think if you're in that locker room, you play a role. And plus, Boogie and Rondo, I almost said Chris Paul. Rondo did have some moments that were good in the playoffs, by the way. Like, Rondo didn't end up having a good postseason, but games 3 and 4 of Dallas, he was like switching on to Luka and doing a good job. So that's a thing. We had Paul Pierce. I know he did nothing, but that was pretty surreal to see that he even wanted to be a Clipper. And this is all possible because of Ballmer. Like, this is all possible because of Ballmer. Harden is still an all-star level Harden. Westbrook wanted to be a Clipper. John Wall wanted to be a Clipper. It's crazy. Am I forgetting anyone? Now Bradley Beal. We literally had John Wall and Bradley Beal and Beal and Westbrook, and Harden, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Brooke Lopez. It's insane. Yes, we're getting him a little too late. Some of those flopped, but it just, again, I always talk about keeping these in perspective. Like, these people want to be part of the Clippers organization. Like, nobody wanted to be a part of the Clippers organization before. So Ballmer's goated. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram. By the way, the Chris Paul thing, that's another conversation. I don't want Chris Paul anymore. Like, we're good. We're set. We got enough guards. We got 10 guys. But the thing is, I'm hearing that it's going to happen. And that brings a whole nother set of problems. I like this 10-guy rotation. I just don't necessarily like Beal starting with this team. But I love this 10-man rotation. I think if you have Beal as a sixth man, oh my God. Like, this team is... I don't think we're a championship. Well, here's what I'll say. I don't think we're going to win the championship because I have my own doubts about some of our stars. But in terms of contender, that roster is a contender. We're just old. But we are one of the best teams in the league with that 10, I think. That's a really good team, barring injury, which is a risk with Kawhi and Beal. And maybe that's why we're going to get Chris Paul. We'll talk about that later. You can follow me. There's so much to talk about. You can follow, and by the way, takeaways, this is a good move. I'm concerned about the point of attack defense, and I don't think John Collins is coming off the bench. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod. Subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for my live reaction right after getting Beal, and all my Summer League content, which was the best time. And of course, Locked On Clippers 5 days a week. The age-old proverb continues, go Clippers.